We're all here in position. We've got Marc Lotter, former director of strategic communications for the Trump 2020 campaign. Marc, been a long time since I saw you. About 90 minutes. Hope you got a shower. I did. So let's talk about this because we're seeing not only this decisive victory so far with Donald Trump, but even seeing him raising his margins in some of these areas, but also states that are blue states that Kamala Harris will win, but the margin has shrunk.
Right. I think that might actually, and we talked about this prior to the Madison Square Garden event when he was out in California, in New Jersey. I said, yes, he is campaigning for House candidates. That's why he's there. But should things break correctly, this could actually be the play and the difference maker in winning the national popular vote.
I think a lot of people were thinking about the Hispanic vote and what was going to happen. And there were some who were surprised to see how far some of those votes tilted toward Donald Trump. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if anything, I think we're almost seeing the end of demographic politics.
That's interesting.
I think because so many people, whether you're Hispanic American, Black American, it's just like, no, I'm an American and these are my issues. Just because I may check this box on the census form doesn't mean I don't think the same things about everything else that everybody else does.
I mean, really, it is true. There may be different categories now. I mean, we used to talk about, the minority vote, the demographics. Now we're talking about education, college education, not college educated. Those sometimes are going to be the breakdowns, rural versus urban. So we still have those divides. I mean, we have 50% of the country. This is, essentially a tie vote. But we still have those divides.
No, absolutely. And I think, we were talking about it last night when we were talking about the Florida abortion ballot measure, that you actually had people who voted against or for that measure, but then went on and voted for either Senator Rick Scott or Donald Trump. So people are separating their various issues. And then I think in terms of their ballot choices, we used to call it ticket splitting, but now with issues, I think we're seeing that they can compartmentalize.
We saw it in Arizona as well. I mean, we're still waiting for the call there, but Donald Trump is leading there. But the abortion measure that enshrines the right to abortion in the state of Arizona, that passed easily. We called that earlier in the night.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's, and maybe to one point, I think for all of the consternation, for all of the discussion about it, but this is actually allowing the people to vote on these measures. And they're saying, despite what their state lawmakers or despite what other people are saying we should do, they're putting their finger on the button and saying, no, this is where I believe on this.
Well, people thought that young men were not going to come out and vote. I remember that was the drumbeat we kept hearing. Are they going to show up? They showed up, didn't they?
They really did. And I was thinking about this last night. If you're, let's say, a 21-year-old, maybe casting your first ballot, Donald Trump came down the golden escalator and has dominated media coverage for the last 10 years. Yeah. You grew up with basically nonstop in your formative years and your formative political years of coverage of Donald Trump or Donald Trump as president or Donald Trump running for president again. And so this is really something that I'm going to be very interested to see how the youth vote goes, because for many, Donald Trump is the only president or candidate for president they've known.
Well, now Republicans, I mean, they have the Senate, they have the White House. House is hanging in the balance. If you want to bring the Supreme Court into it, there's an ideological advantage for conservatives on the Supreme Court. So they are holding power in almost every lever of the federal government. So great news for Republicans this morning, but also now you got to govern. So what do you think will happen now?
Well, I'll tell you. So I was on the 2016 campaign, as Hallie and Kristen so well know, and I was in the transition, walked into the White House on day one with him. He is much more prepared now than we were then, because many of the policy leaders that were in the White House in those final months, those final days, they now work with me at the America First Policy Institute, which is a think tank, but they've been drafting the policy, writing the white papers, getting the executive orders ready. He will make the decision on what he says I will do, won't do. I won't go this far, I will go that far. But none of the stuff that we had in 2016, early 2017, he has access to that now.
What do you think about the fact that, what he won't apparently have is many people from his prior administration, prior cabinet secretaries coming back. Many of them, frankly, did not support him and said he was unfit to serve. Well, now he's coming back to office. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of splits that happen, and especially in that first administration, because he didn't have that experience. He didn't have that power base. He didn't have the experience in Washington, D.C. So he trusted a lot of other people to make a lot of those choices. When you see the people there that were there toward the end, many of them, not all of them, but many of them still do support him, are rallying around him. And I think having the knowledge of having been there, done the job, know what it's required, will help him pick people that are prepared in the next administration.
What will that first week look like when Donald Trump's president?
You know, that's really interesting because I remember when I was going through the transition and some of my predecessors in the White House of both parties were telling me, you have no idea. The best transition in the world is still the largest hostile corporate takeover on the planet, and you cannot be prepared for it. But since he's been there, since so many other people have been there, I think it'll be a little smoother, but it's still a very daunting task of, in what, 74, 73 days, basically taking everything that you have and flipping it over to something entirely new.
All right, Marc Lotter,
Thanks,
thank
Marc.
you. You've been there. Good to have your perspective this morning.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.